Good evening and welcome to NTD News. I'm Stephania Cox. Here are today's top stories. Dozens of tornadoes hit the southeast U.S., killing 18 people and damaging hundreds of homes. Some states now under a state of emergency. New York's hospitalization rate is flattening. The governor working with surrounding states to plan for reopening the state. Essential workers now required to wear face coverings when working with the public. The Chinese consulate asks the lawmaker to praise the Chinese regime for its efforts in slowing the spread of the virus, but it didn't turn out as planned. Bernie Sanders endorses Joe Biden for president. Sanders is the last Democratic candidate to drop out and back the former vice president. And OPEC and oil-producing nations agree to historic oil production cuts. The move puts an end to the price war between Russia and Saudi Arabia and aims to stabilize the industry. The coronavirus, or CCP virus pandemic, is not the only disaster disrupting lives in the U.S. this week. Parts of the South are in shambles after deadly tornadoes and severe storms.
By early Monday, at least 34 tornadoes in Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Georgia, and at least 18 people dead. Several of those tornadoes tore through Mississippi and Louisiana Easter Sunday, overturning vehicles and damaging hundreds of structures.
We saw the tornado. We could tell it was going to be about a mile or so south of us, but you could hear it, and we knew that it was going to be bad.
Mississippi and Louisiana now in a state of emergency.
We have hundreds of lines down, and this is going to take a long time for us to recover from. We're not going to recover from this in 2 or 3 days, not even 2 or 3 weeks.
Officials in Monroe say at least 200 homes are damaged from the storms. Residents there advised to stay home to avoid injury and keep social distancing.
We want the stay-at-home order to continue because we don't want individuals walking and creating some challenges for themselves, injury-wise. We don't want them driving over some of these power lines.
The storm system is heading up the East Coast, posing a threat all the way to Pennsylvania, with some areas seeing possible tornadoes, hail, and flash flooding.
Parts of New York City and surrounding areas were also hit with winds of up to 70 miles per hour today. Power lines fell or exploded, leaving 17,000 without power on Long Island.
People struggled to use umbrellas and struggled not to fly away in the wind. A wind advisory was in effect in Queens and nearby suburbs, while the advisory ends later for areas of Long Island farther from the city. In parts of New Jersey, winds reached as high as 82 miles per hour. The storms traveled to the northeast after dozens of tornadoes ripped through the southern U.S. starting on Sunday and continuing into Monday. At least 31 people died. Hundreds of thousands of homes and businesses across 13 states are still without power. That's after more than 1 million people in 20 states were without power earlier in the day.
New York Governor Andrew Cuomo says the worst is over if we continue to be smart. The state has suffered more than 10,000 deaths from the virus.
New York is still at a plateau. Governor Andrew Cuomo announced Monday fewer people needing ventilators and fewer being admitted to the hospital with the disease. But they're still taking in about 2,000 people each day.
But on the other side of the healthcare system, people are being discharged on the other end.
Deaths dropped slightly from Saturday to Sunday, 758 to 671, still reaching around 700 per day. Cuomo announced Sunday his executive order directing employers to provide essential workers with cloth or surgical face masks to wear when directly interacting with the public. And New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio ordered all city workers who interact with the public to wear face coverings starting Monday.
We've already provided 1.4 million face coverings. To city workers, we will provide as many more as are necessary.
As for future plans, Cuomo is working with surrounding states to design a plan for reopening.
Connecticut, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Rhode Island.
That we can do anything better when we work together in this region.
The state's governors on their first public phone call Monday, emphasizing multi-state coordination is a major part of their strategy to get transportation and the economy up and running again. Melina Weisskopf, NTD News, New York.
Cuomo also said it's crucial that businesses, schools, transportation, and the workforce coordinate. He's planning the next step to slowly lessen the self-isolation rules and add more essential workers. And Bernie Sanders is endorsing Joe Biden's presidential candidacy. His announcement came as he made a joint online appearance with the former vice president.
I am asking all Americans, I'm asking every Democrat, I'm asking every independent, I'm asking a lot of Republicans to come together in this campaign to support your candidacy, which I endorse.
Biden thanked Sanders and asked for his help to govern if he becomes president. Sanders is the final Democratic candidate to drop out of the race and endorse Biden. The Vermont senator ended his campaign last Wednesday after a string of disappointing results. Barring an exceptional circumstance, Biden will now face Donald Trump for the presidency in November. And last state to vote before Sanders dropped out was Wisconsin. Results are still coming in just now, with Biden on 65% of the vote so far and Sanders 29%. And in Wisconsin, a Chinese consulate asked a lawmaker to praise the Chinese regime for helping to stop the spread of the virus. But in the end, they got the opposite of what they were looking for. NTD's Miguel Moreno has more from the senator.
In February, the Chinese consulate of Chicago asked a Wisconsin lawmaker to praise China's efforts to stop the spread of the virus. The consulate even emailed the senator with their own resolution, and in March they followed up with a revised version.
I just couldn't believe the brazenness that they would have to try and influence what we're doing here. I've never ever had that, where a foreign government passed us a resolution to introduce for anything.
But Senator Roth wasn't having it. Instead, he proposed a resolution in March condemning the CCP for hiding information that could have slowed the spread. The Chinese consulate's resolution said China has been transparent and quick in sharing key information of the virus with the WHO and the international community, thus creating a window of opportunity.
So they say that they were creating a window of opportunity. The only window the Chinese Communist Party created was a window of opportunity for this virus to spread from the Wuhan province to the entire world, thus creating the pandemic that we have now.
The senator's resolution says the state of Wisconsin stands with the Chinese people who are held hostage by the oppressive CCP. Roth introduced the resolution in March. He says it'll move forward in either May or June. Miguel Moreno, NTD News, New York.
Two notices on Chinese university websites show the Chinese regime is censoring research on the origin of the CCP virus. All research papers must first be approved by central authorities. It's the latest attempt to control the narrative on where it all began.
Notices from two leading Chinese universities show the Chinese regime is censoring research around the origin of the virus. The notices have since been deleted, but remain archived online. One references China's Ministry of Science and Technology, which says any research around the virus's origin must first be approved by the ministry. The other says research should be strictly managed and submitted for review by the university before publishing. Universities in China are all tightly controlled by the state. It's the latest development in China's attempt to control the narrative surrounding the origin of the virus. China's original explanation claimed the virus likely came from an infected bat at a Wuhan seafood market, but an early investigation of the market found no bats were sold there. China then tried to pin the blame on America, saying it brought the virus to Wuhan, but it has since backtracked, admitting it began in Wuhan. The possibility that the virus is man-made and leaked from a lab is also circulating. The Wuhan Institute of Virology is just 10 miles from the seafood market. It houses more infectious diseases than any lab in Asia, including coronaviruses. Employees at the lab have been ordered not to talk to anyone about the new virus. China appointed its top military biowarfare expert to take over the lab at the beginning of February.
Some updates from around the world now as France extends its lockdown until May 11th and a wildfire still rages near Chernobyl.
French President Emmanuel Macron announced he is extending the lockdown until May 11th and admitted that the country was not sufficiently prepared for the crisis. He gave details of the planned exit strategy, saying that schools and creches would be the first to gradually reopen. A French Navy ship carrying 50 crew members who tested positive for the CCP virus docked on Sunday in its home port in the south of France. And in the UK, Britain's finance minister told colleagues the economy could shrink by up to 30% this quarter because of the restrictions. This according to reports in the British newspaper, The Times. The paper cited unnamed cabinet ministries who seem to want to relax measures next month. Apparently, they are worried the cure could be more damaging than the disease in the long term. But with the Prime Minister recovering from the virus, it's unclear if the UK's measures will be eased anytime soon. Moving to wildfires in northern Ukraine, which have been raging for over a week. The blaze is nearing the abandoned Chernobyl nuclear power plant. Emergency services dropped over 300 tons of water on the fires on Sunday. More than 300 emergency workers, 3 planes, and 3 helicopters are involved in the operation. And designer brand Louis Vuitton has stopped making its highly coveted bags at some of the workshops in France. Instead, it's making face masks. Companies across Europe and the U.S. are shifting their operations to produce items like face masks, hand sanitizer, and ventilators, which are much needed during the pandemic.
OPEC and other oil-producing nations agreed to record production cuts never seen before, ending the oil production price war.
OPEC and oil-producing nations agreed on Sunday to cut oil output by a record amount as oil prices slumped amid the CCP virus pandemic. Measures to slow the spread of the CCP virus have destroyed demand for fuel. OPEC Plus sources said they expect the total global oil cuts to amount to more than 20 million barrels per day, Trump said. That's 20% of global supply. The cuts go into effect May 1st. Russia, Saudi Arabia, and the U.S. expressed satisfaction on the agreement. President Trump was optimistic that the deal would revive the industry. He said in a tweet, "The energy industry will be strong again, far faster than currently anticipated. Thank you to all of those who worked with me on getting this very big business back on track, in particular, Russia and Saudi Arabia." It's the biggest oil output cut ever. The cuts will remain active until April 2022, although they will gradually lessen after June.
Up next, the Federal Communications Commission commissioner takes China up on its offer of transparency. Find out what he's asked when we return.
When you look at TV networks in America, a soundbite and fight-it-out culture prevails on news and commentary programs. As a Canadian, I'm fascinated with America, and I wanted to offer American thought leaders an opportunity to share their thoughts in a deep dive format, where we can explore their ideas together. And so American Thought Leaders was born. The world's most brilliant thinkers believed that open discourse was the key to greatness. However, all around the world, we see that discourse is being stifled and political agendas have subverted media. The Epoch Times launched its Global Thought Leaders program to bring back this great tradition of free thought. As the host of American Thought Leaders, every week I interview some of the most intriguing minds on the most pressing issues of our time. Be sure to check out our new episodes every week.
%90 of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. They're not out to tell you the truth of what's happening. They're out to tell you the picture of the world that they represent. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in facts, and prevent people from being misled. This is a battle between truth and deceit. Subscribe today and join the Americans who are seeking truth and tradition. We'd love to have you on board.
Welcome back. China's foreign ministry spokesperson says anyone can come and speak to residents about the freedom they enjoy. An FCC commissioner is now taking her up on the offer. Also, China's schools are reopening after the lockdown, but a video circulating online shows a worrying scene. NTD's Tiffany Meyer reports.
A video shows an ambulance outside of the second high school of a city in Henan province. The province neighbors Hubei, the epicenter of the CCP virus. In the video, you can see medical workers wearing protective suits. The person taking the video says they've brought several students away. According to Chinese media, 12th graders in Henan province resumed school on April 7th, and 9th graders resumed school on April 13th. Chinese media have not reported any confirmed or suspected cases of the virus from schools in the province so far. China has been pushing world leaders to change the narrative on the origin of the CCP virus. Chinese officials have asked German Federal Ministry officials and employees to say China has been handling the coronavirus outbreak well. The German Foreign Ministry has told ministers not to meet the requests. Cybersecurity researchers found that China has been buying up ads on U.S. social media sites to change the narrative on the virus. Consulting from Recorded Future found that from mid-February to early March, Chinese state media posted more than 3,300 times a day. That's triple the normal rate. The activity was mostly on Facebook and Twitter. These posts are meant to create doubt and anger around basic facts surrounding the virus, sometimes even going as far as promoting fake claims. China's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Hua Chenying posted on Twitter saying, "You are welcome to China anytime to talk with anyone in the streets and experience the freedom." FCC Commissioner Brandon Carr, in response, asking to speak with the 9 citizen journalists in China who all disappeared or died after trying to expose the virus. Carr wrote, "First, I would like to speak with Dr. Ai Fen. Dr. Fen worked at the same hospital in Wuhan as whistleblower Dr. Li Wenliang, and is the one who gave the information on the virus to Dr. Li. After coming forward in an interview in March, her social media is being updated, but no media can reach her. Her actual situation is unclear." Carr then writes, "Could you undisappear her so we could speak?" Tens of thousands of comments criticizing the Chinese government are scrubbed from the internet on a daily basis. That's according to a report by Bitter Winter, an online organization focused on human rights in China. Mr. Liu is a web moderator for a famous digital platform in China. The report gave him a pseudonym to protect his safety. Every day, Liu's job is to delete online comments that criticize the Chinese government. He's become even busier since the start of the virus pandemic. That's because all posts that question China's official virus reports and those that criticize the Chinese leaders for mishandling the crisis have to be deleted as soon as possible. During the interview, a comment popped up on Liu's screen. It read, "The government isn't telling the truth. They said only several hundreds have died. I just don't believe it. The government leaders are sinners." The comment was deleted immediately. Comments praising the United States and healthcare system in the West also have to be scrubbed. Liu said deleting those types of comments is a priority. But China's internet users are finding ways around the censorship. They use acronyms and emojis to replace sensitive keywords. To keep up with increasingly strict censorship, people like Liu are hired to review the comments manually. He has over 200 coworkers who work day and night to delete comments and posts. Liu says he doesn't know how many staff members are in charge of moderating articles, videos, and photos. At the start of his interview, Liu had already deleted over 9,000 posts that day. He's required to delete a certain amount of posts every day to meet a quota. Software on his computer filters comments by sensitive keywords like virus, police, and government. The keywords are marked in different colors, which make them easier to delete. Liu explained that the posts he deletes aren't all rumors or negative comments, as defined by the government. He says the situation in China brought on by the virus is actually still in a bad state, but the government doesn't allow people to tell the truth. It only permits people sing the regime's praises and never allows truthful information to flow. Liu says he's really disappointed in China's leaders.
Up next, learn about the virus's impact on newborn babies. Find out what doctors recommend and some of the options available for moms and dads after the break.
Viewers have described China Uncensored like The Daily Show, but about China.
In China, something can be illegal, but still in common practice. For example, bribery, or intellectual property theft, or Uber.
But at the beginning, I was super excited when I got 500 views, and now the show's grown to about 500,000 subscribers on YouTube. One episode reached 7.9 million people and counting. I'm a little freaked out that many people have seen my face.
Hey, have you heard of China Uncensored? It's starring me.
It's more and more obvious that China is having a major influence on the U.S.
Hey, have you heard of China Uncensored? 中国揭秘. In 5 years, I see China Uncensored as the only show on TV or the internet. It will be the sole source of edutainment worldwide. Have you heard of China Uncensored?
Yeah, I have.
You actually have? He's heard of China Uncensored.
I love China Uncensored.
Welcome back. It's a terrifying thought for a new mom that she could infect her baby with the new virus. How should mothers weigh their choices if they test positive? NTD's Melina Weiskup spoke with one clinician who explains why feeding infants naturally is even more important than ever.
Expecting mothers who've tested positive for the virus or suspect they may have been exposed may wonder about the best way to keep their baby safe. Mothers can take heart in knowing that breastfeeding is still possible.
There's no evidence that the COVID-19, the virus, the SARS-CoV-2 virus that causes COVID-19 is transmitted through breast milk.
That's according to some studies. And it is widely known that breastfeeding protects newborns from getting severely sick.
So we know that breastfed babies, when they're ill, they're much less likely to be hospitalized for the severity of illness that babies who are artificially fed would be at risk for.
The Centers for Disease Control's most recent guidelines show only a small number of newborns have been infected. It isn't known if they were infected before or after birth, but the CDC says virus transmission during pregnancy is highly unlikely. As for whether or not to keep the baby in the same room or isolate them after birth, they say it's each family's choice. But Eyeglass and other physician members of the Academy of Breastfeeding noticed where there's a risk of infection, hospitals often separate mother from child without giving families much of a choice. She wants to make sure they know they still have a choice when it comes to separation and breastfeeding. Melina Weiskup, NTD News.
Amazon is forced to put new grocery delivery customers on a waiting list. Many shoppers couldn't order groceries online because there weren't any delivery slots. Amazon wants to make sure it can serve existing customers first. The company also plans to shorten the opening hours for some stores so its employees can fulfill online grocery orders faster. In recent weeks, Amazon upped the number of its stores offering grocery pickup to more than 150 locations, up from 80. And more help is on the way. Germany's Volkswagen says its U.S. dealers will provide cars for free delivery of essential supplies. The automaker is asking dealers to use their loaner fleet to pick up and deliver the goods. Loaners are cars customers drive while their vehicles are in for repairs. The company will let its loaner vehicles deliver food to a local food bank, transporting masks and gowns and dropping off necessary items to people who can't leave home. Volkswagen said its dealers would not charge the group or person making these requests. And coming up, see what some are doing during the lockdown. One Olympic champion kept himself busy and raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for charity at the same time. We bring you there after the break.
Are you tired of newspapers spinning the truth and pushing false narratives? And are you looking for honest coverage of Spygate, the true story of collusion? Or the truth behind the crisis at our southern border? Or how the Chinese Communist Party is working to subvert America and our way of life? Then you need to check out the Epoch Times newspaper. It's independent, nonpartisan, and it doesn't push any political agendas. Just go to readepic.com and try it yourself for a full month for just $1. You'll absolutely love it.
Looking for something to do while stuck at home? How about a full triathlon? That's what one Olympic champion did on Saturday and raised money for charity at the same time.
2008 triathlon Olympic champion Jan Frodeno completed a full Ironman triathlon in his home on Saturday. His efforts raised more than $200,000 for charity. The German is currently under coronavirus lockdown in Girona, Spain, but he didn't let it stop him. He swam over 2 miles in his countercurrent pool, cycled over 100 miles on his roller trainer, and ran an almost 30-mile marathon on his treadmill, all in just over 8.5 hours. A 3-time Ironman world champion, Frodeno was raising money for healthcare institutions in Girona and the Laureate Sport for Good Foundation. The spread of the virus has wreaked havoc on the sporting calendar. So far, it has forced the postponement of every major event this year, including the 2020 Tokyo Olympic Games and the Euro 2020 Football Championship. The entire triathlon was streamed live. Other athletes, including cycling greats Fabian Cancellara, Chris Hoy, and tennis legend Boris Becker, also joined the live stream to support the German in his effort.
That's all for today's news. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Stephanie Cox.